Welcome to episode 5 of season 4 of the Filmmaker Film Watcher podcast. I'm filmmaker Richard Di Gregorio.
And I am film watcher Greg Ralph.
So this episode, we really need a laugh, don't we, Greg?
Well, yes, I don't know, dear listener, where you are or even when you are, but at the moment, as we record this episode, we're right in the middle of what's called Lockdown 4 here in Melbourne, which means we really can't do much at all outside the house. And I find that difficult. I know a lot of people find that at least difficult. And so I said to Ricardo said I don't want to watch heavy films. I want to watch something that's going to make me laugh. And that was the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great idea. I mean, we've got a curfew here in Melbourne of 8 p.m. and that's the first that's ever been in Australia. And so I thought it was a very good idea. So we are
the curfew or the comedies?
The comedies. The comedies.
And we chose films where one you liked and I hadn't seen, and vice versa, and then one that neither of us had seen.
That's right.
And the first one of those was the Marx Brothers, which was the one that neither of us had previously seen. So we went for Duck Soup, their 1933 film, first of all.
Yeah, and then we went for the 1996 film Happy Gilmore.
With Adam Sandler.
Yes. And
finally, 2001's multicast Rat Race.
That's right. So, okay, let's kick off this episode, Greg, with a Marx Brothers classic, Duck Soup.
For reasons lost in the mists of time, Duck Soup means something that is easily done. In this short 1933 Marx Brothers film, the tiny country of Fredonia is about to become bankrupt. Their potential saviour is the incredibly wealthy Mrs. Teasdale, Margaret Dumont, but her millions in financial aid are tied to the dismissal of the country's incompetent president. She wants him replaced by Rufus T. Firefly, Groucho Marx, who comes with his secretary, Bob Roland, Zeppo Marx. Perhaps the movie should have been titled Money for Jam, because Mrs. Teasdale's money certainly gets Fredonia in a jam. And you can see what I did there. Government soon descends into chaos, and Sylvanian Ambassador Trentino, Lewis Calhern, seeks a way to take over Fredonia. Aided by a seductive singer, Raquel Torres, Trentino recruits 2 spies, Ciccolini, Chico Marx, and Pinky, Harpo Marx. These spies don't seem to do much other than harass a local lemonade vendor, Edgar Kennedy, and his hats. Meanwhile, Ambassador Trentino tries to woo Mrs. Teasdale away from President Firefly, and the resultant love triangle leads to war between the two countries. The film begins like a Gilbert and Sullivan opera, with a stirring national anthem trumpeted and sung to welcome the new president. But it quickly becomes a vehicle for hammering you with non-stop jokes, reminiscent of Flying High or Airplane, as it's known in other parts of the world. Each of the Marx Brothers gets to do his thing. Groucho has some great one-liners, and Chico has a number of comic dialogues with various characters. There are moments of visual delight provided by Harpo, whether it's using a series of horns to talk on the phone, or a dog unexpectedly leaping out of a tattoo on his chest. And there's a terrific sequence with multiple Grouchos, when the 2 spies impersonate him to get their hands on Fredonia's war plans. But you have to feel a bit sorry for Zeppo, who doesn't have much to do as a straight man and seems a bit left out. Apparently, in real life, he was considered the funniest brother off stage and could fill in by imitating one of the others if they were unwell. Now, that's not to undersell the craft of being a straight man. Lewis Calhern, who was later Oscar nominated for his performance as famed American judge Oliver Wendell Holmes, holds his own as the ambassador. And Margaret Dumont is a perfect foil to Groucho. She said, "Scriptwriters build up to a laugh, but they don't allow any pause for it. That's where I come in. I ad-lib, it doesn't matter what I say, just to kill a few seconds so you can enjoy the gag. I have to sense when the big laughs will come and fill in, or the audience will drown out the next gag with its own laughter." And her craft shows. Groucho was always complimentary about her, and later graciously acknowledged her as the 5th Marx brother. But I didn't find this film funny. I didn't laugh. That feels heretical to say, as critics rate Duck Soup and A Night at the Opera as some of the greatest comedies ever made. The story was too slight for my tastes and felt a bit dated. I wondered if we had picked the wrong Marx Brothers film, and perhaps should have watched one of their earlier films that had been honed on stage. How about you, Ricardo? Did you laugh at Duck Soup?
Not a lot, you know. I'm with you on that. I felt really awful that I wasn't actually finding this that funny. You can watch this a few times because I think they're thick and fast. These lines, these one-liners from there, they're thick and fast.
And they're puns that I would use in conversation.
Yes,
you know, I would pick up and run with elsewhere.
So look, I can really appreciate it to no end. I mean, it's 1933. This is an amazing, beautiful, great movie. I can see why it was a success of its time.
I respect its craft, and I respect its place in the canon as well. But
I can still laugh at Charlie Chaplin,
and for me, particularly Buster Keaton.
So I think its satirical nature is okay, but I think that was better done. Like I think Chaplin does that better in The Great Dictator. One of the things for me is it just didn't make me laugh. I know there's classic scenes. The mirror scene is a classic scene.
And I wondered if they had been the first to do that. And I went and read up a little bit, good old Google, and found out no, they weren't. But they do it very well.
They do it beautifully, and I can see why it's a classic scene. And you've got the lemonade stand as well, all very slapstick orientated comedy. Very commedia, commedia dell'arte, and very sort of very theatrical. So I can really appreciate it, but it just wasn't making me laugh. Now, I watched it with my son because he loves Chaplin. And
he's about 10?
He's 10, and he loves Chaplin. I mean, he watches silent movies, and he wanted to watch A Trip to the Moon, and George Méliès' Trip to the Moon the other day when I saw that there, and he goes, I really want to watch it, and he watched the whole thing and loved it. He watched Metropolis, He's great. I love that he loves silent movies and can see where it comes from. But so I thought if I'm going to watch it with him, he'll probably hopefully get a laugh at the slapstick nature of it. Wouldn't get the one-liners. I mean, that's just over his head. And quite honestly, sometimes goes over my head. They're so thick and fast. You sometimes get one and you sort of have a chuckle at it. But he found it boring. And I must say, I did too. It was an hour and 8 minutes. And I found myself just wanting it to end a bit. And
is that the first Marx Brothers film you've actually seen?
Yeah, it is. And you know what?
Yeah, me too.
Considering that is meant to be the best, it's not making me want to watch the rest, really.
I know what you mean.
It was hard work, and I felt like it didn't have to be hard work. And I know people are probably, our listeners are probably going, who are lovers of the Marx Brothers, are going, hang on, how can you be saying this? How can you be saying this? What about this bit? And what about that bit? It's just, I understand it. Like I said, I can appreciate it. But for now, I think it's dated quite significantly that I don't think it's as funny now as what it probably could have been. Because it's not just about it being old, because I find a lot of old movies quite funny still, and comedies. So it's not about that. I just think it's the style, the theatrical style of it is, I can see, because I've worked a lot on comedy and commedia dell'arte and also sitcom-based comedy shows, and I can really see the work at play, and I can see the lines, the waiting, the pausing, as you said, the pausing before the gag. I can see it all working, and I just feel the mechanics of it. So, it was taking me out of it a little bit.
Well, in our last episode, we talked about It Happened One Night, made the following year, 1934, and that remained funny.
Yes, it did. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So it's not just a time thing.
No.
I think it's historical context. So things that people were less used to. My understanding is their first two films were basically films of two stage shows they'd done that were very successful. So it gave a chance for people who lived out, not close to New York or wherever. It gave them a chance to see those shows and enjoy them.
Yeah.
And so I think I get that, because the show would have had reputation as well. Apparently, just before they made this film, Harpo had done a tour to Russia, and he'd gone through Europe, and he saw the rise of anti-Semitism and allied phenomena, and he came back, I think, from memory, quite angry about that. So you can see that historical context for the makers and maybe the audience too would have flavoured this whole ridiculous situation about two nations going to war over nothing.
Absolutely, yes, and I think
and
of
maybe
its
that's
time,
why it's called Duck Soup. It's
yeah.
about a storm in a teacup, basically.
Yeah. Well, there we go. I mean, yes, I could see the message there, and I think it's of its time there. But look, I'm not saying I got no laughs out of it. I really loved when the dog came out of Harpo's chest and whatnot. That was really funny, and I thought some of his gags were great, actually. So I didn't get enjoyment out of it. I got
I
smiles.
got smiles from it. I didn't
Yeah.
get laughs. I had a moment of actual shock when the dog leapt out of the tattoo because it was so unexpected.
Yeah,
and I went
it
back and
was.
watched it again.
It was.
That's
yeah.
one bit I went back and watched.
I rewound that too. I rewound it. I went back on it.
I think you're allowed to say rewound.
Yeah,
even
okay,
digital.
that's right.
But so I look. Maybe I laughed and I can't remember. But most of the time, I was smiling or marking time, and the times I most often smiled were around Harpo.
Yeah, me
So
too.
we talked about the horns and the tattoo. There was that running gag about the sidecar on the motorbike, where the motorbike would take off.
Yeah, that was funny too.
And leave Groucho in the sidecar. And when he swapped places, you knew exactly what was going to happen. That the sidecar took off and left the motorbike behind with Groucho. But even though I knew it was coming, that was funny, and it was delightful to see.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
The joke about the horseshoes by the bed.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Actually, that was actually one bit which Cassel was watching. We were watching it together. It just went, "Oh my god! Oh my god, we've gone there. We've gone there." But
Well, it was pre-code.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And so there we go.
And even when he drew Groucho's face on the jug, when his head got stuck in the battle scene.
Yes.
It was more that I was delighted by the whimsy than was laughing, amused kind of thing.
And there were moments of the war sequence at the end, but I found that even odd because I felt like that.
I didn't find that particularly funny at all.
No, I didn't. I found the war sequence at the end, they looked like they were losing. The enemy was coming in on them, and then somehow they've won.
Ambassador Trentino?
Yeah. I found that was all very... And then suddenly it was the end. I don't know. I found that a little bit fast and odd and just...
Well, it is a very short film. It's an hour and 8 or 9 minutes.
It is. An hour and 8 minutes, yeah.
It's also an interesting point in their development as a movie act, because they'd had these 2 huge hits. They'd made another 1, maybe 2 films with Paramount Pictures, and then Paramount wasn't making the money that they thought they would be, and they pulled a Swiftie. They set up another company called Paramount Productions and transferred, I think, this film to it. And the Marx Brothers didn't get the money that they believed they were entitled to, the cut of the profits, which is part of their deal. They were quite canny businessmen. In fact, Zeppo, after he finished doing movies, he and the other brother, Gummo, became successful Hollywood agents.
Oh, right.
And obviously knew about deals and so on. I suspect that was probably in the blood. But there was a dispute between Paramount and the Marx Brothers, and they were heading off to make another film that they had been doing a lot of work on, and then they sorted things out and came back to do this last film, and then they went off to MGM and made some of their big ones. I think that's when they made A Night of the Opera. So
yes.
I kind of wonder. I don't want to overstate it, but I wonder if it's kind of almost a contractual obligation.
Yeah.
They kind of. But that stands in marked contrast with how a lot of critics think this is a great film. I don't.
Oh, they see it as one of their best, And,
yeah, I know, and that's.
But I don't
odd.
think filmically. I think it's more it's so theatrical that it's more. It's more
But
like
so
they've just
was their first 2. I mean, they're based on theatrical shows. So I saw a clip from Coconuts, I think it was, where it was like a classic French farce. You had a wide camera view of 2 rooms, a wall in the middle, and people going in and out of doors between these 2, I think they were hotel rooms, the connecting door and the 2 hallway doors. That felt very stage showy as well. This just felt a bit... And what did you think of the number where, they declared war and everyone does this weird dance and ends up on their backs, wriggling their legs in the air and so on?
I was bored. Yeah.
Yeah, I was bored.
Yeah, I was bored.
It was an impressive shot in terms of the number of people involved in it,
Yeah.
who were relatively choreographed. I saw some people up the back who weren't quite.
Yeah.
But I wasn't amused, but I read something that said that they did an amazing number of well-known dancers in that routine, which I'm not placed to recognise and understand. So I think there's a lot of distancing going on there too. It's just stuff that they're referring to, but I've got no idea
But
about.
filmically, it just wasn't very, inspiring.
No,
I
and
mean,
it's disappointing.
when you have great filmmakers and pioneers of the time, and Alfred Hitchcock was even working sort of back then in silent movies and whatnot as well. But you had Griffith in the silent movie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, these people making and doing great things with film and craftsmanship of telling a story using the film medium. This was just like chuck a camera down and let them do their thing.
Yeah, but it was directed by Leo McCarey. So Leo McCarey directed a Laurel and Hardy short. He directed a film later with Harold Lloyd. He did Indiscreet with Gloria Swanson. He did Charles Lawton's Ruggles of Red Gap. He did The Awful Truth and Affair to Remember, 20 Years Apart with Cary Grant. And he did the two Bing Crosby films, Going My Way and The Bells of St. Mary's.
Well, that's later. That's later.
Well,
So,
no, okay, but Gloria Swanson and Laurel and Hardy are certainly before.
Before, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's not like he's an amateur.
No.
He should be knowing what he's doing, but I don't think it came across.
I don't think so. I just think filmically it was a little bit boring. It was. But look, screenplay wise, great. I think they've their quips and their one liners are great, and some of the physical comedy was okay, and it's great. And I can see why they're classic and why it was big at the time. But for now, unfortunately, I think it's dated too much.
So what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, me too. I was left wondering if we just picked the wrong film.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to like it a lot more than I did. I was a bit disappointed by not, and I thought, is this just me tonight? Is it just me? Is it just my mood? Is it just me feeling this?
That's how I was feeling, and I watched it on my own. I thought maybe I'm just not, engaging in the vibe. I really did like the whole sequence with the multiple Grouchos and the mirror and so on. I think that was actually the highlight of the film. I wanted more of it.
Yeah. I mean, look, the lemonade stand gag scene, I felt I'd just seen it so many times before now, and it just ended up being just a bit boring, and I just wasn't laughing. Those whole gags are just so old hat now. So, again, appreciate it, but no cigar.
Well, that didn't get a lot of laughs from us. Let's see how we go with a film that's called Happy Gilmore. Ricardo, tell us about it.
Okay. Directed by Dennis Dugan, who made other Adam Sandler films such as Big Daddy, Don't Mess with the Zohan, Jack and Jill, and Grown Ups, this 1996 film, Happy Gilmore, has to go down as one of Adam Sandler's funniest. Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler, loves ice hockey. It seems to be like an anger outlet for his very short temper. The trouble is, he's not very good at it. He's actually terrible because he can't skate, but he can hit the puck very well. He also can't hold down a relationship because he really is a man-child. His mother left the family to Egypt when he was young, and then he lost his father to a flying puck at an ice hockey game. It meant his loving, sweet grandma, Frances Bay, had to care for him from a young age. Now, after not paying her taxes for years, the IRS are now seizing her house unless she can come up with $270,000. Happy doesn't know what to do. When the IRS are taking a break from taking all her possessions, they attempt to play golf and challenge Happy, who strikes the ball, making it fly very far. They quip that he could make some money being able to hit the ball that far, so he starts earning money from people watching him do it. He gets discovered by Chubbs, a hilarious Carl Weathers, an ex-pro golfer who lost his hand to an alligator when his ball got hit in the lake, who wants to train him to play in tournaments. Reluctantly, Happy agrees because he can make good money to get back Grandma's house. He starts to win some money coming in low places, but his temper is enormous and hilarious when things don't go his way, and he starts to bring in punters to watch him play. The pro golfer on the tour, Shooter McGavin, Christopher McDonald, thinks Happy is making a joke of the sport and does what he can to screw up Happy's chances of winning the big tournament. This film is hilarious. Okay, I love it. It's one of my favourite comedies, and I laugh every time. It's my favourite Adam Sandler comedy, and it apparently is his favourite as well, his favourite character, and also the favourite movie that he's made. classic moments like his fight with game show host Bob Barker, to his dream sequences, to Shooter McGavin in every scene he's in, to endless love on an ice rink. But even Ben Stiller's uncredited role, I just laugh every time. But it's also so sweet as well, with the love for his grandmother. Adam Sandler always has this sweetnesses when he deals with the older generation. Greg, what did you think of Happy Gilmore? Did you laugh? How did you feel?
Well, what do you think I thought,
I don't. When I was watching this, I was thinking Greg is possibly not going to like this that much because it is quite lowbrow humour. But what did you think?
Well, you know that I value your insights. And your insight into my reaction to the film is spot on. No,
yes, Greg. I knew it. You're laughing, see?
And yeah, I had to get something out of the film. Look, and I know I'm treading all over your dreams, so I'm trying to tread carefully. But no.
It's fantastic.
Where do I start?
It's brilliant.
And it's hard to start because normally when I watch a film, I'm making notes. I didn't actually feel inspired to make a lot of notes either. Sorry, but here we go. Look, I am not generally a fan of Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
There are exceptions. This is not one of them. Mm-hmm. So, and I went through his filmography to say, well, what do I like? It's a long time since I've seen it, but I seem to remember liking The Wedding Singer. I thought that film
that's very good. Yeah.
Had heart, had soul.
Yeah, I love that too.
I enjoyed 4 other films, I think because of the stories they were telling, which was 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, I love that one too.
I enjoyed Click and I actually find myself often thinking about Click, the one about the magic remote control where you can fast forward and pause.
I think it's a bit underrated, that movie. I think it's a very good movie.
I think there's some real depth to that story and what it's trying to say.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
I don't remember it very well, but I liked The Cobbler, the idea that you put on someone else's shoes and you become them. Mm-hmm. You look like them. That was interesting. And I really, really liked Pixels that came out about 5 years ago. Actually,
that got really bad reviews and people didn't really like that. But I thought it was actually quite clever. And I really liked that one too.
It was clever. So I enjoyed the cleverness.
Well made too.
I enjoyed the humour. And I had a moment. I saw that one at the movies. And I had a moment when I was sitting there watching the scenes where the aliens were talking through 80s clips.
Yes.
So Madonna and I think Ronald Reagan and whoever else, Hall & Oates, and sitting there watching them speak those lines, I had a moment of insight where I sat there thinking, this is the moment. This is the moment where I know from now on I can't trust what my eyes tell me. And that's before we really got into more modern ideas of deep fakes where people are really doing full-on manipulation. They covered their tracks a bit there with the staticky kind of stuff.
That's right.
That was a bit mind-blowing, that film. But Happy Gilmore, for me, no, it's not. So I don't like Adam Sandler by and large, but he does sometimes tell interesting stories. And he's one of these comics, for me, like Jim Carrey. It's when he's more restrained that I find him more interesting.
Okay, did you like Punch Drunk Love?
Well, you know what? I didn't put that on the list because that's one of the very few films that I've watched that I couldn't finish.
Oh, wow.
I was totally bored by it.
Oh, and no, not me, no.
I got about maybe a third of the way into it, and then I just gave up.
No, I really enjoyed that one. I really did. And Uncut Gems was his new one, which was
Paul
very
Thomas
good as well.
Anderson?
It is, yeah.
And Uncut Gems is one I haven't got around to watching, and I will watch it one day because I'm intrigued what you and others have told me about it. But yeah, so look, I'm not off to a great start with Adam Sandler anyway, and this was certainly one of them.
Okay, so hang on a minute. So when it begins, that first opening montage, you didn't find any of that funny at all? You didn't laugh? When did you laugh at all? I mean, in Duck Soup, you laughed.
I laughed once.
When?
And my wife, who watched the first part of the film, we both laughed at the one bit. And that was the first time he was hitting golf balls down the street. And he hit the guy outside at his front door.
Yes.
And then he did it again, and he hit the wife at the upstairs window, and then she fell out and tumbled down the terrace on the ground. I laughed at that. That was funny. That was classic pratfall kind of stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Keep on that level, and you'll love it. I mean, what?
No. So I found the dick jokes about In Every Job at the start. I found that a bit puerile.
And I found it is puerile, but it's funny puerile. Come on.
I had that problem with Julie Bowen playing the girlfriend, that when he was in the fantasy sequences and she's in these really very, very skimpy lingerie, white or black depending.
Yeah.
No, I just thought, oh, really? And I
Come
have to
on,
say,
he's a man-child. Of course, he's going to have images of her in lingerie on the thing.
But I don't find that funny.
With 2 beers and
I know.
and then you've got the odd thing of a dwarf on a horse. Like I just a little
no,
like
didn't work
that.
for me.
That to me, I just love the out there nature of it.
You haven't mentioned a kind of an added layer of meaning to that film now, because the woman running around in skimpy lingerie, she's the mum from Modern Family.
Yes.
So Julie Bowen. So seeing her run around in the lingerie too was all a bit too much for me. I'm sorry. I don't understand or relate to golf, so again, I'm not going to be in your target demographic.
Look, you don't find him when he gets upset. All of that stuff, you know, the endless love on the ice rink when they start kissing and it goes back.
As the guy lip syncing.
Has me in stitches.
No,
I love that.
I was looking at it thinking, I think that's when my wife was still in the room. We're looking at saying, who's he? What's he doing there?
No, it's just,
No.
it's off the wall. It's good.
If you're not a golf fan, I don't think you're going to particularly relate. If you don't know who Bob Barker is, and in the Australian context, very few people, with the obvious exception of yourself, are going to know who he is. So,
but I don't think it matters, because I think you know.
I think it does matter.
I don't think it does. I think because I didn't know who he was, but I knew he was a game show host, and I knew that in America he was a big game show host. So I could just sort of almost think that is quite funny that they've used him there.
If you know his persona, which you would in the American market, I'm sure.
Of course.
If you know his persona, and if his persona is, I'm guessing, that he's an incredibly nice guy, always nice to contestants and so on, the fact that this reversal might be funny. So in the Australian context, if you had Tony Barber.
But he was an older guy beating up on the younger guy. I think that was quite funny as well.
No, it wasn't funny. And the other problem I had with the film is the story itself. The story is all about the Happy Gilmore character, and I think to a lesser extent the antagonist, Christopher McDonald as driver. What was his name?
Shooter McGavin.
Oh, Shooter McGavin.
Shooter.
Yep.
Jackass.
But you talk about the reverence for the grandmother, but
it's sweet.
She was a cutout.
Doesn't matter.
It does.
The characters. I mean, it's not in depth here. There's no depth to the character. I mean, they're very...
and ditto for Julie Bowen as the girlfriend.
Of course.
And even Ben Stiller. Like, Ben Stiller was fine in the part.
Yeah.
But there's no payoff to that story. He's running a sweatshop, for quilting with the old people and selling them at bulk rates, whatever he was doing. And I can see that was funny, although it did make me laugh. But I was waiting for the payoff. That Happy Gilmore would get all that money. He'd buy the house and he'd go back and he'd do something to Ben Stiller. Where was that story going? I just didn't buy into it.
I just knew it.
Yeah,
how did I know? I was watching it going, I'm laughing so hard, but I was like...
And why did you know that I would have that response?
Because I just know the type of comedy that you're not into. I thought this is not the type you're into.
Okay, so
we've been doing this podcast for a long time.
Why did you choose this film?
Because I wanted to see it again and have a laugh. That's why.
Well, if that's the comedy we have to resort to, so be it.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, look, I think Carl Weathers is actually very good in this as well. I actually really like Carl Weathers. Did you mention
that he's from the first Rocky film, Apollo Creed?
Yeah, Rocky 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Not having seen any of them, I'll take your word for it.
Tragic, you haven't seen a Rocky, but I think he's really funny in it, actually, as Chubbs, and the way he, the way he dies.
I know.
Come on, you didn't laugh at that? Come on.
No, I didn't.
Oh my goodness!
You haven't mentioned that Jaws is in this film.
Jaws?
Yeah.
Yes, Jaws from the 007 films.
Yeah, Mr. Larson, Happy's old boss, with the nail sticking out of his head, which actually was funny. I didn't laugh at it, but I thought that was funny that he still had that nail, and somehow he got the helmet off that he was shot through, and so had the nail there. I mean, I thought it was funny, but I didn't laugh. And I was really starting to have a bit of a mini complex. Here's these two... Well, I probably was never going to like Happy Gilmore, but here were these two films and I'd said to you, Ricardo, I want to laugh. I want to watch some films that make me laugh. And I was going nowhere really quickly. And all I wanted, Ricardo, I just wanted to laugh.
Well,
yes,
I
folks,
did.
that's why I'm not an actor.
I did. I watched it when it came out, and I loved it ever since. Nin and I, my partner, she loves it as well. So we had a good laugh.
And now I understand why you belong together. That's great. That's lovely. That's beautiful.
Well,
So,
I felt very happy with this. Look, I give this a 7 out of 10. I'm not going to say it's in classic territory. I'm not saying it's one of the masterpieces of our time, but it's funny and it gives me enjoyment every time I watch it.
So how far down from 7 do you think I'm going to count for my rating?
Ooh. I think you're going to go below 3.
Well, let me count down. 7, 6,
Jeez.
5, 4. Bing, 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 bing. 4 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's more than I thought.
No, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't as bad as Cabaret, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
point.
You know what?
Always a sticking point.
I should be boosting Cabaret or marking this down because Cabaret is probably a better film. But
Probably. Greg.
I'm probably marking this one up because I know it's not for me. It's not going to make me laugh. It's got too much working against it for me. But I can understand. Look, maybe I gave it a pity mark just to keep you happy because I knew you liked this film. But for me, it's about a 4.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it made me happy. So the third film we are going to discuss, and hopefully this one gives Greg a laugh, I think it will, is the 2001 film Rat Race.
This is probably the 4th or 5th time I've seen this 2001 film. I was a bit apprehensive settling down to watch it, as my funny bone hadn't been tickled by the other 2 movies. I was beginning to worry that this wasn't my week to watch comedies, and I feared I may have misremembered Rat Race. I needn't have worried. My wife, our teenage son and I laughed all the way through, even though we had all seen it before. To be fair to the other 2 films, this was the only one I watched with other people, which always adds to a film's atmosphere. This film is basically a remake of 1963's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. 6 groups of Vegas casino customers are given the key to a luggage locker hundreds of miles away. They're told by the casino's owner, John Cleese, that there's $2 million inside, and first one there gets to keep the prize. The race begins without the contestants knowing that they've become the rats in a betting race designed for the casino's high rollers. The contestants include risk-averse lawyer Breckenmeyer, disgraced sports referee Cuba Gooding Jr., just reunited birth mother Whoopi Goldberg and her adult daughter Lanai Chapman, 2 small-time common brothers, Seth Green and Vince Viloff, Italian narcoleptic tourist Rowan Atkinson, and family man John Lovitz, who's in town with his wife, Kathy Najimy, to see a Vegas show with the kids. Along the way they encounter and sometimes recruit a number of people including Amy Smart, Kathy Bates as a crazy squirrel lady, Wayne Knight, Newman from Seinfeld, Dean Cain, Superman from Lois and Clark, and Rance Howard, father of Ron. In one sequence is a busload of off-the-wall I Love Lucy lookalikes. The real Lucille Ball died 12 years before this film, and what a pity she never got to see this sequence. It's all directed by Jerry Zucker of Flying High or Airplane fame. In fact, his mother makes a cameo as an elderly Lucy, a tradition they started when she played the makeup lady in Flying High. There's also an uncredited and heavily disguised cameo that we'll discuss later with Ricardo. I, as I think I've just proved, can be very picky about modern US comedies. But this one just makes me smile and laugh. Repeatedly. It sets out to be funny and achieves this superbly. The tragedy is that so few people know about it. It starts with a peppy song and animated titles that set the tone. At times the action is Looney Tunes, but the characters are believable and they do believable things. Unlike Zucker's Flying High, which I really like, where the characters are just vehicles for jokes. Potentially lesser characters such as the kids are treated as real people, unlike the grandmother and the girlfriend in Happy Gilmore who feel more paint by numbers. The story flows and the parts interconnect. Two characters close an airport, and this causes other main characters to join the race. A flying cow, you had to be there, and a land speed rocket move the story forward for people elsewhere in the race. John Cleese praised the script as one of only two that he enjoyed during his career. He said, "It's so unusual to get a top-class script. Twice in my life I've had the experience of reading a script and simply saying, I'm going to do this." And the other one, for historical record, was Clockwise. It has a terrific cast who are clearly enjoying themselves and each other. And it has a jubilant end. What more could you ask for? One day I would love to see this film in a full cinema. So, Ricardo, did you laugh?
I did. I did. I tend to think that on the page, reading this script would have been absolutely hilarious. And when you're reading it, you go, oh, this is great, and all these little funny moments and everything. But I found it quite laboured as well. I think Cuba Gooding Jr. overacts quite a lot in it, and I didn't really like a lot of the character stuff. There were fine moments in there, and the moments I did laugh. The cow stuff was great. I liked that. I liked the fast moving rocket machine. That was funny. When the family go into the World War II veterans, and he can't talk because he's just burnt his mouth, and he's doing a whole Hitler impersonation. That was hilarious. I was laughing out loud in that scene.
What about when they actually first went into the museum? It was the Barbie museum, and so the daughter says, "Oh, Barbie, I've got Barbie. I want to go to the Barbie museum." Yeah. And then it turns out to be Klaus Barbie, the notorious Nazi.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. I wasn't laughing out loud about that. It was okay. It was like, Did
you see the dummy in the background?
Oh, doing the
museum, yeah.
Doing this, yeah.
This time around, there were so many things happening in the background I hadn't picked up before.
Yeah, I didn't really love the characters. I really didn't like Rowan Atkinson in it. Actually, it's the first time I really didn't like Rowan Atkinson, and I didn't like the story about the heart either. I just found that was really off. I
Really?
I did. Yeah, I found it was really off. Yeah. I didn't like that much at all, actually. I was cringing through it. I just didn't know.
I think there are a couple of callbacks to other Zucker films. So the heart, that happens in Flying High. You know, that the little girl is having a heart transplant, and there's the doctor with the bumping heart on his desk at the Mayo Clinic.
I forget Flying High. I've only seen it a couple of times
really?
when I was quite younger, yeah.
And the whole thing about a cow being the centre of jokes is from Top Secret.
Oh, right, okay. Sure. Well, I found the cow stuff okay, but the two characters, the two guys in the car, the guy who couldn't speak,
the two brothers,
piercing, yeah. I really couldn't get into their characters either.
Oh, he's my favourite character in the film. That one with the piercing. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was okay. There was laughs throughout it, but I was sitting there going, I couldn't get into it fully.
Did you watch it alone?
No, I watched it with Nin. Yeah, we're both feeling the same way.
So your son didn't watch it?
No, God, no, he's 10. The first sequence, the first scene, it's all talking about,
I know, a porn film. I think that scene really jars in the movie.
Actually, but there's something which we were talking about. I mean, it was talking about thinking they should have removed any sex references out of it. They should have removed any of that because it would have been a great family film.
Well, there's only two, aren't there? There's the extended sequence at the reception desk at the very start of the film, and there's part where one of the characters is negotiating different sex acts with a prostitute. As part of a bet. Are there others? Just those two, aren't there?
I think there's little bits throughout. There's little adult themes throughout. Yeah, there is. And I was saying, because every time they came up, we were like, they should just really remove these out because it would actually be a really good family comedy. And would work. Whereas it doesn't work that way because they've sort of gone adult as well as sort of slapsticky sort of family. And I don't know. I don't feel it worked as well as what I would.
Any of
big sequences
other than those two.
Big sequences though. I mean, it really it's quite a big film. And I was like, wow, this is it's not a small film by any stretch.
And it's the longest of these three. It's just under 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay, I laughed when it first started. I didn't know what I was going to expect. I'd never seen this film, and then when they put a glass down and the lady trips over it and falls down the escalators, and I laughed at that. I thought that was quite funny.
And the
But
lawyer?
then, which part was
So
that?
the lawyer for the woman who fell down the stairs, who came racing up, the ambulance chaser.
Yeah.
Well, that's Gloria Allred. She's
Oh,
a
it is, yeah,
famous
that's right,
women's
yeah.
rights attorney in America.
Yeah, she is.
So
Yeah, that's
she's
right.
having a laugh at herself.
Yes, yeah, I got that. I didn't find that funny. I was ready for a laugh, and I had a couple, and that was it.
So you didn't like the sequence with the brothers on the air traffic tower when the car's kind of getting wound up?
No, no, I wasn't laughing. I did the Lucille Ball bit in the bus. No.
There was
I
actually
appreciated it because it was Lucille Ball. I love Lucille Ball. But again, I was looking at, I quite like Cuba Gooding Jr., but I didn't like him in this. I felt his comedy was quite forced. And
I have to say, he was a bit forced in the film.
John Lovitz's character is quite awful.
Oh, no, see, I usually don't like him. I think he's great in this.
Yeah.
And the whole payoff, the bit where my son was in absolute hysterics was the payoff with Hitler's car. That
Yes.
sequence of quite extraordinary events where, he can't speak, he's waving his hand around in the air, and he sounds German,
That was my favourite part. I was laughing out loud at that moment. I was laughing out loud.
By the way, so did you work out why I sent you the photo of the guy who was shooting at him?
I did because it's a good cameo. It's a very good cameo of Mr. Robert De Niro.
Completely uncredited.
It's funny because when it happened, I thought, oh, that looks a little bit like Robert De Niro. But then I went, oh, no, there's no way he would do it. Just like it's a one scene, one role. But he
Heavily
did.
made up.
Heavily made up. But he did. And that's great.
Well, I was completely oblivious to it. It was just when I was reading about the film afterwards and found out and went back and looked because I totally didn't recognise him.
Yeah. Well, I thought because they're showing this person, I don't know, they made it so clear that someone was shooting at him. And it just looked, like it was there for a purpose. So, and I think that's why I thought it looks like, but it does look a bit like him. So,
When you look,
yeah,
he's got a straggly red wig and he's got some makeup on and
that's
some
right.
wearing glasses maybe and the hat.
I quite like the Whoopi Goldberg and the daughter scenarios. I loved it when the daughter comes in to meet her mum for the first time in the opening. And
starts screaming at someone on the phone.
Screaming at someone on the phone. I really like that.
They kind of lost that part of her character as it went along.
It did, yeah. She didn't turn. That character didn't turn back. It didn't go. I thought that joke was going to continue throughout the film, and it really didn't.
No, that story in the end was really about Whoopi Goldberg, which is no surprise. And after that opening scene, the daughter was really just her companion on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Apart from her impatience with the crazy squirrel lady, she wasn't actually bringing much to the story.
I really like the crazy squirrel lady. I love Kathy Bates, and I love that when they forgot going down the hill and it's like you should have bought one, or like it was very. That I found that quite funny.
Have you seen the original "It's a Mad, 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 Mad World"?
No.
Oh well, the story is at a high level is very similar, except there's a gangster who has a road accident and dies, and the people in the cars who try to run down after when he's dying, find out that he's a gangster. He's buried some money under the big W at this particular park, and it's full of people. I mean, I should have looked it up. It's full of people like Phil Silvers, Ethel Merman, Spencer Tracy plays the policeman trying to work out what's going on, and so on and so on. Buddy Hackett, Sid Caesar, like it's crammed with famous comic actors from the time, and there is that same sequence, I'm sure, about the squirrel lady halfway through the film, because she does it to Phil Silver's character. And in fact, that film is so long, when I saw it way back in the 60s, it had an interval, which was right. And one of the big events at the interval was when his car was in this river because of what she'd done. But I love the brothers. Vince Veloff, who is my favourite character, I think, overall in the film, and I think has got a great gift for physical comedy. The shame around this film is twofold. First of all, no one really knows about it, and I think it deserves to be better known. Obviously, not everyone's going to find it funny, but I think it's hilarious based on repeated viewings. But his career should have got a big launch from that film, and it never did. And the story is that allegedly that his agent was very aggressive, and as a result, his character wasn't in all the posters and PR, and he kind of went nowhere after that. And I think
right.
his performance, I don't know what his range would be in other parts, but I think his performance in that is a gem, and I think something should have gone on for him, and it just didn't.
Yeah, I'm surprised because he wasn't quite a big role in it. Oh, I love another part I really liked. I liked the guy in the helicopter and the turn of the girl character.
Amy Smart. Yep.
Amy Smart's character in there was fantastic. I really liked that when she goes absolutely nuts in the helicopter and
I love
goes
her.
after.
I love watching her. Yeah,
She's really good in it actually, and I really liked those two. And that made me laugh. Because it was just out of nowhere. So suddenly she was just went nuts.
she's a bit of a throwback in some ways to screwball comedy. Like she's this, beautiful, obviously whip smart female character, but then her behaviour just goes skew-if because of triggered by the events with her boyfriend.
Yeah,
and she finds him cheating.
Yeah, and I really like that
from her helicopter.
I like those two actually. Those characters were great.
There's a little moment in the film where some of the characters are trying to get a rental car at the airport, and there's the trainee with the very patient woman standing behind him, telling him what to do, and he's parroting back to the customers. You don't remember that?
No, I don't.
I remember that scene, and I remember loving it, but I could never remember which film it's in. It's this one.
Yeah.
And there were lots of little details. So another thing I noticed for the first time, after John Lovett's character, Dad, has told his daughter that they can't stop for a toilet break, and so he gets her basically to defecate out the car window.
Yeah.
And the next thing you see is they've been pulled over by the police, and John Lovitz is trying to bat his eyelids, I think, at the state trooper who's pulled him over. But did you see what's happening in the background?
I saw exactly what was happening in the background. They were cleaning the window.
the other cop was furiously scrubbing his car, obviously being in the daughter's slipstream. I'd never noticed that part before.
See, even that part there, I went, it's okay.
No,
I think it was done better in National Lampoon's Vacation,
which I haven't seen. Even the concept of the prairie dogging when the daughter needed to go to the toilet.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, that was funny. That was funny. Like I said, it's not as though I didn't laugh in it, but I just felt it was quite forced. And I think on the page, I would have laughed at most of those moments.
Well, I thought John Cleese was a bit forced actually too.
Yeah, I think so. But I thought that, like I said, I think all of those moments, all the funny bits you're laughing at, everything, I would have, if I read that screenplay, I would have been really laughing hard. But I just don't think they quite got it, and I think it felt quite forced. It's in a lot of the moments.
I think overall they nailed it, and I think it's a pity the film. I don't remember this film getting. Oh, I think they did, and this film never got a cinematic release, did it? In Australia, at least.
I think it did.
I don't remember hearing about it at all.
I do remember it.
No, I first saw it, I think, on video.
Right.
2001 might have been DVD, but home
back
viewing.
then, I think it was going between VHS and DVD.
Well, we've already proved why I shouldn't be an actor. I think you're following in my slipstream. What are you going to give it?
I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah?
6, yeah.
I'm giving it an 8.
Really?
I even teed it up would I
don't
give it an 8.5?
It a 9.
Well, it crossed my mind. My wife gave it a 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, I'll give it a 6.
We really enjoyed it. And so on the back of the two films I hadn't laughed at, I was probably a bit relieved as well. But I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed it. And from the get-go, the opening titles, that song has been in my head over the last couple of days since I watched it, Oh, okay, fine. Go on, sing me the Happy Gilmore theme, why don't you? Is there one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that completely passed me by as well.
Yeah.
Well, no, look, I'm giving it an 8. I just think it sets out to be a funny film. I think it nails it. I think, unlike a lot of comedies, the behaviour was believable, even these outrageous things they were doing. It didn't feel like a spoof. It felt like a human-based comedy. I really wish they'd just cut out that scene about the sex films, in the opening part.
Oh, but
it just jars.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit old school as well. The guy who's watched, porno movies in the hotel room, like it's just a bit. It's a bit flat.
It sets up the character, but I think you could have done it another way. Yeah,
it's competently made. But to me, it's all about with comedy.
Well, they spent They spent $48 million on it.
They did. Oh, yeah, and you can see why. I mean, I was really surprised at how big this film was in terms of the set pieces. I mean, you had a lot of stars in there as well. But to me, with comedy, it's not just about the big set pieces. It's about the characters and what the actors are doing. And I think a lot of the time it felt forced to me.
You know, this film's got a little bit of a claim to fame historically.
With what?
Well, apparently it's the first feature film to star 2 Black American Oscar winners.
Oh, wow.
Whoopi and Cuba.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then you've got Kathy Bates in there as well for that brief cameo. But yeah, it's apparently one of its claims to fame. But look,
I think they would have had a ball making it and would have thinking this is the funniest thing ever. I can just tell, but it just fell flat.
But I've seen films like that, like Rat Pack films. It's obviously they're having a great time, they're really enjoying each other's company, but it doesn't translate. This does translate for me. And look, overall, in terms of these 3 films, mission accomplished. We both got a laugh out of it, even if it's the film that we already saw and liked and didn't convince the other person, which is your tragedy, not mine. But but look, I needed a lift in spirits in current circumstances, and Rat Race did it for me.
So that concludes episode 5 of season 4 of the Filmmaker Film Watcher podcast with our I Need a Good Laugh episode. I'm glad that we were able to actually have a laugh, even for one of the movies, both of us. Even though 1.5,
Even though in both cases it was self-amusement.
Yeah. But I think it's a good time, and in a challenging time, it's good to have a laugh. So I think it's good.
And we say that not just with regards to ourselves, but to our listeners as well.
So next episode, or the next 2 episodes, Greg, tell our listeners what we are planning for the next 2 episodes.
We're harking back to some of our earlier seasons where we focused on what we called our confessions. So that was where either or both of us hadn't seen a film that really there was no excuse for not seeing, particularly if we're going to put ourselves forward as, film critics. So what we're going to do in the next 2, the first one, next time, is called Ricardo in the Confessional. And we're going to pick up 3 films that I've seen that Ricardo hasn't. And so those 3 films in chronological order. A famous black and white film from 1957, 12 Angry Men. We're also doing 1995's Dolores Claiborne, based on a book, Ricardo, I think you've read, by Stephen King.
I have read Dolores Claiborne. I've always wanted to see the movie, so this is really good. I know the story really well. I really enjoyed the book.
And we can't let go of comedies, so 1999's Galaxy Quest, the Star Trek spoof.
All films I've really wanted to see, but I just haven't got around to it, so I'm looking forward to them all.
And in the next episode, won't yet tell you what the films are, but it'll be my turn in the confessional booth, where Ricardo will pick 3 films that I really should have got around to seeing by now.
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion one of them, though, will be Rocky.
But I think so. I still can't believe that. But thank you for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you listening,
and never with more meaning can we say, take care. These are strange and difficult times. Maybe we've given you a comedy to go and watch to just dispel the cobwebs a bit, but take care.
And let us know what you think about these films as well. I mean, we really want to hear from you on our social pages on Facebook. So we'd love to hear from you on Instagram. When we put up a post with the films, we'd love to know what you think. So please let us know, and we'll respond. And we love that open communication with our listeners as well. So please do that.
You'll come back now.